are under pressure. The need for better services, for more efficiency, and for more resilient services has never been greater. While we all acknowledge that continuous improvement should be part of the daily operations, many utilities need that push to break through. We have learned that. We know that high impact wins can be the catalysts that are needed to build momentum, to shift mindsets, and to attract support. That's why today our webinar is focusing on accelerated performance improvement in water utilities. We want to share with you real practical stories from the field. So my name is Camilo Lombana. I work with the World Bank. I'm a senior water and sanitation specialist, and I'm thrilled to be here with you today. Next slide, please. So what we've seen that sustained transformation is not an effort of a single day. Change and change management doesn't happen overnight. So we know that change starts with a decision to raise performance, to break all patterns. We know that improvement is not something that happens in a day, but it requires to keep raising the baseline. So to move from a basic performance level to the next level, it requires first that initial boost. And once that we get to that second level, that is what needs to be our new baseline. So we also need to be locked in that new baseline. So for that, we need to update the processes, we need to reinforce our standards, we need to strengthen the staff behaviors. So this is how we institutionalize the change in our utilities and prevent from backsliding and coming back to the previous baseline. It takes consistent monitoring, capacity building, and focus on people. A culture of continuous improvement makes each step of this process sustainable over time. Next slide. So utility of the future is one of the methodologies that can be used to improve performance. So it does start with a overall understanding of how a water utility works. And from there, we support and help utilities drafting that action plan or that pathway to improve performance. Again, it starts with smaller actions that once they are implemented, they trigger the reform momentum and they trigger the new performance on the utility. We have implemented this program in over 100 utilities across the globe, more than 30 or 40 countries, and we've seen that it's been tested and proven that is a tool that actually supports utilities in improving performance. Next slide, please. So today's session is meant to inspire action. We want to show how small focus steps can unlock bigger and lasting change. Whether you are a utility manager, a policy maker, a sector advisor, I'm sure that you are going to be able to find some lessons here. So we're going to present some case studies from professionals from leading water operators in the world. So we'll have Suez, Veolia, and Águas de Portugal sharing their experience with us today. So we'll get to see from a very technical aspects that have triggered a significant performance improvement in utilities to more human resources focused oriented or human resources oriented practices that have also achieved similar results. We will also want to hear from you. So we have set some interactive sessions. So the idea is that we will be displaying some polls that we want to share with you and want to get your feedback and your opinions. The Q&A is also open, and we will be trying to collect the questions and pass on to the panelists, and from there we'll see how many of those we managed to present. So for now, please introduce yourself in the chat box. Let us know your name, let us know your organization, who are you joining from today. So to kick us off, we are going to start with a short interactive poll to hear your perspectives. And from there, we are going to listen to our first panelist from Suez. So thank you again for being here today, and let's dive into the discussion. Right, so I see the poll is up at this moment. Please go ahead and share your views across these three questions that we have in the poll at this moment. All right, let's give a couple seconds to complete this. All right, so I think that we can close the poll for now, and with that, let me pass it on to our first panelist of the day. So we are delighted to have Selim Mujahideen and Rui Sobral from Suez. So over to you, Rui and Selim.
Good afternoon, good morning, everybody. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to present you the WICT methodology and the knowledge transfer tool. WICT, what does it stands for? It stands for Water International Knowledge Transfer Initiative. Next slide, please. It's a tool that has been designed almost 20 years ago by Suez for internal purposes. The idea was to use the expertise of the different subsidiaries all around the world from Suez to help new contracts, new entities to improve and to become more efficient. It's a management tool that is provided. A few years ago, we decided to open it to third parties, so we provide the usage of this tool to other companies if they are interested. How is it based? It's based on the first self-diagnosis of the situation of the company. We'll go through that rapidly. The setup of an action plan with a performance improvement mechanism and the monitoring of the improvement and the increase in the operational performance over time. Next slide, please. Yes, it has been set up for the first time about 20 years ago. It has been extensively used by Suez in its subsidiaries or outside. You have a map with there's hundreds of occurrence of the usage of WICT. The last one I'm aware was about 3 weeks ago in Angola, in the company that managed the water for Luanda. We have tens of commercial references, and it has been used in different types of countries, very mature systems in some countries, very immature systems in other countries. Next slide, please. How is it structured? In fact, it's structured in 5 activities. It's covered 5 activities and 44 business process. What you have is you have a process for all the activities water or sewage utility can need to. So I will not go through all of them, of course. So for example, in the drinking water, you have the resource management, the plants, the laboratories, the transportation networks, the maintenance of the reservoir, etc. So it covers 360 degrees of all the activities of a normal operator. Next slide, please. How is it based? First, it's based on a self-assessment, and we'll go rapidly through that. That permits to evaluate 360 degrees or where you are, where the company is in terms of maturity of operation. Once this assessment is done, you prepare an implementation and deployment improvement plan. That includes several components. One of them, major component, is training. Training to bring to a higher level the skills and the behavior skills of all the employees of the company. The third phase, can you move on, please? There should be a third. Next slide. Okay, it's after 6 months or 1 year, or the previous one, sorry. After 6 months or 1 year, every 6 months or every 1 year, you make a new measurement to determine where you are and to update your implementation and deployment plan. Next slide, please. Okay, this is the assessment. The assessment of the situation of the company around the 44 processes is done through a grid with 2,600 criteria. And based on this, the value of the assessment of this criteria, you draw a net, web net, that you can see that gives you where you are in all the different components. You have the blue ones for potable water, sewage, etc. Once you do this initial assessment, you define where you want to be. And this is the second slide, the second graph, where you have in pink where you were at the beginning and the green where you want to be. And then when you monitor every 6 months of every year, you see the evolution and the web net increases. How is it? The middle round on the blue round corresponds to 3 is what we consider being a standard operator. So when you are around the blue circle inside, you're a standard operator. When you manage to reach the outmost circle, you're like best in class, best excellence you can have in the world. So you can rank where you are. Next slide, please. The training tools. In fact, at the same time, Wikti is also a huge library that processes a lot of documentation that can cover all the aspects of the operation. I've listed here a couple of them. For example, you have hundreds of job descriptions, you have data sheets, you have process sheets. It's tools that have been used somewhere else. They might not exactly correspond to what you need in your operation, but at least you have a beginning point and you already have part of the job done and you can use it and make it evolve corresponding to your needs. Next slide, please. Now, Selim will present you a real case. It has been implemented in Tunisia in a recent contract. So I leave the floor to Selim to explain to you the Tunisian experience of the use of Wikti. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. Thank you, Rui. I'm Selim Jaida, the Human Resources Manager of Suez, Tunisia. Our operation here in Tunisia began on June 12, 2024. It's the first PPP in the water sector here. The turnover is $250 million US. The contract was signed with ONAS, it's our client, for a period of 10 years and financed by the World Bank. The contract concerns operation and maintenance and refurbishment works. It covers southern Tunisia and affects 3 major Tunisian regions, Sfax, Gabes, and Medellin. We are operating on 14 wastewater treatment plants. And actually, we have a treatment capacity of 38 million cubic meters per year. We also have 1,900 kilometers of sewerage network pipeline. And the total number of employees is 250, half from a transfer of staff from the former dealership and half newly recruited. Can we go to the second slide, please? Thank you. Enormous challenges awaited us. We have to structure, to organize our actions and mobilize our resources. That's why a few months ago, we implemented WICTI and carried out our first self-assessment. So 18 processes were selected from the 44 offered by WICTI. For example, the water treatment plant management, the sludge treatment and recovery, laboratory and discharge control, etc. For each process, we designated a referent process WICTI in charge of managing the continuous improvement of this process. So workshops were organized to present the methodology and the tools. And the tool, after there was field visits. Field visits were carried out to collect information, of course, with the active participation of some relays. As a WICTI officer, I've noticed a real enthusiasm among WICTI referents, because beyond the tool, it's a mindset that's evolving. The implementation of WICTI engaged more than 50 employees. And as you can see, the spider here in this slide represents our process maturity assessment. The result is objective and represents the reality on the ground. So it was, I mean, it's 1.32 out of 6. We also organized a meeting to share the results of the WICTI assessment with our clients. Knowingly, the client considered that the maturity level of our process was real and objective, and considered that our target of 1-2 years were very realistic. Listening, sharing information, real involvement, it was the beginning of a real partnership with our clients. So we can go to the third slide, please. So next. Yes, thank you. So next action plan were drawn up for each process, giving rise to a dynamic group, a kind of think tank, which improved the following 3 areas: the process, what we call process care, the skill care, and the management care. So what's the benefit of WICTI? The benefit of this tool, of this methodology, is first, the knowledge transfer and the skill development for all the employees. The second is how we improve the performance management. I mean, it's a mindset-oriented continuous improvement and the introduction of a result-oriented culture. And the third, we presented WICTI to our clients and shared the diagnostic results. So we gained our clients' trust, and we are able to demonstrate that we had mastered our processes thanks to a powerful tool, WICTI. As a result, we have built up a real partnership with our clients. So in conclusion, that we can say that with the implementation of WICTI, we have created a collective agility effect thanks to this dynamic group with those people, with our employees, significantly increasing the level of employee commitment and skills with positive impact at all levels. Thank you for listening. If there is some questions.
Selim, thank you so much for your presentation. And this is a great example because it shows that actions in human resources are as important as any other type of actions, right? Sometimes we try to focus a bit too much on technical and commercial solutions, but yet we've seen through this example that Suez shared that this type of smaller activities, strengthening, focusing on building capacity, focusing on transferring that knowledge to the staff of the utility, actually do have a repercussion on the performance of the utility. So thank you for the example. So with that, I think we can pass on to our second case that we want to share today. This time is Veolia, who's going to share their experience. This is rather a more technical example. So here we're focusing on technical operations and how to smaller actions in the field of non-running water can also trigger performance improvement in the utility. So over to you, Nuno.
Good morning and good afternoon to everyone, and thank you for this invitation. I apologize not turning on my camera, but I have a very poor connection here where I am. My name is Nuno Marques, and I'm here to present a case study from Sereka Veolia that shows how we tackle the non-renewable water challenge in Dar es Salaam. It's as it has been mentioned, it's a practical case, and we have done a lot of attention also to the capacity building and training. Please, next slide. Dar es Salaam, so DAWASA is the Dar es Salaam Water Supply and Sanitation Authority and is responsible to providing water to over 5 million inhabitants. They operate 4 major water treatment plants. 3 of them supply the project area, and they cover over 6,000 kilometers of network, supplying more or less 420,000 customers spread about across 23 branches regions. So they are split in several regions in terms of operation. Next slide. So the project area covering most of DAWASA service perimeter was delimited first in 5 hydraulic zones. Of this area, only a part was targeted for the water loss reduction activities. This area was named as the PBC service area. So we see the project area on the left, and on the right we see the PBC area. It covers the Kinondoni operational area. The PBC area has a total length of the network of 300 kilometers and supplies around 20,000 customers. Next slide, please. So to give you an overview, the project started in January 2022 and initially was planned to have a total duration of 2 years, but it was extended by 10 months for completion of some works, and as it has been already said, that is really important for training DAWASA staff. So we can see 3 major phases. The first one called hydraulic zone and DMA establishment, where we work on all the data collections, site investigations. We dealt with the importation of materials and the start of the construction of the DMAs. Then we move to the phase 2, where the water loss reduction activities start. So after approval of the baselines, we start doing the pressure management, leak detection, repairs, dealing with customer meter replacement, etc. And finally, we have the training and system maintenance. So we want to give sustainability to the project. So this is where we work with the client, with Dawasa, and we decided to design and establish 2 additional DMAs for what it was previously signed in an extension of 10 months for training of Dawasa staff. Next slide. So we are talking of the operational and technical challenges. One of the biggest challenges we faced was the poor quality of asset data. Initial GIS database was lacking with known pipes, interconnections, buried valves. And to address this, an extensive effort was made to improve the GIS database, where we conducted more than 1,200 trial pits, significantly more than the 120 initially foreseen in the terms of reference. So you can see some examples of well, maybe the image is too small, but some of all the red dots were site investigations and where we find problems and the GIS was not accurate. For this, we developed or use an app merging to collect the data and and then it was treated in the GIS. Next slide, please. We also face several problems with for hydraulic model calibration and to leak detection due to the intermittent water supply. In the terms of reference, it was expected to have continuous supply. However, in reality, we found that after starting the surveys on the field site investigation, we found that the supply was intermittent. We also had very low pressures in some situations, and we found also very poor quality materials used in the network and to do repair, as you can see in the images. Next slide, please. So we also performed a customer meter survey. It was crucial for an accurate water balance calculation. So to address this, it was done a property by property site survey, and then where we identified 19,200, sorry, connections using an in-house mobile app. The results identified missing connections, lack of meter asset data, and approximately 10% of faulty meters that we were not able to find. It were buried inside the houses. Well, we found several situations. Next slide, please. So, to better manage and monitor the water distribution and tackle non-revenue water, and it was part of the terms of reference, we designed and established 13. It was initially foreseen 10, but we finally made 13 DMAs in the PBC area. And during the extension period, we have done 2 additional DMAs as part of the Dawasa training. So on the right, you can see some snapshots of the works performed, where we used loggers from Halma, PRVs from Claval, controllers, I2O, flow meters from Cron. Next slide. So then during the phase 2, after the completion of the DMAs, we start with the water loss reduction actions, where we start having the action that really brings value to the water utility. So our water loss reductions actions focus on several key areas. Pressure management. However, due to the intermittent supply, we could not modulate properly the pressure with controllers. We had controllers for each PRVs, so most of them are working with the normal pilots, hydraulic pilots today. Leak detection and repair. So we repair over 2,800 leaks, mostly on connections, 85%. We have made also improvement on the network. We had to replace pipes. We had to make interconnections in the network. We have to install several valves, and due to the intermittent supply, also 16 air valves. And we had also, based on the results from the customer survey, we had also an action related with the meter replacement with focus on large commercial and industrial customers to try to boost the DAWASA revenue. Next slide, please. So as the main achievements that we got, we have, as we can see here, a trend on the reduction in liters per connection when the system pressurized. So as I told, the system was intermittent. So we have started with an average of 1,300 liters per day and reduced almost by 50% to 700 liters per day. We see here a reduction on the trend, and this was due to several administrative problems in importation with goods that delayed almost 5 months the leak repairs. Next slide. So to give you an amount, so we saved in 2.2 million cubic meters of water, so the equivalent to 3 months of supply to that area. And the last month, the achievements on non-revenue water was of 8.2 thousand cubic meters a day, so 8.2 MLD. So it was really impressive, the result. So related with the meters, we faced also several problems in approving the meters that were used, and this delayed a lot the meter replacement. However, just to give you an idea, with just 380 meters that were replaced, and for what we had 3 months of data, we achieved a reduction of non-revenue water of 4.7 thousand cubic meters a month. And finally, the key takeaways. So in summary, we achieved significant improvements in asset data. We established the 15 DMAs, and we managed to reduce non-revenue water substantially. However, we also faced several challenges, like the quality of the data, intermittent supply, several administrative delays, especially with procurement. Now, finally, the last slide. This was for the phase 3. So we gave a lot of importance to the training and capacity building. Even there was teams working with us since the beginning, every day. We also helped DAWASA to create the non-revenue water unit to manage the DMAs that it was created and to achieve sustainability for the maintenance of these DMAs. So we went through the water balance calculations, design of DMA, for which we implemented 2 additional DMAs, GIS, hydraulic modeling, leak detection, pressure management, PRVs, maintenance. And that's all. So thank you for your attention. And please, next slide, you may contact any of us listed here for now. You can contact us, any of us, for further questions.
No, thank you so much for the presentation. So again, we see that smaller changes can actually trigger bigger performance improvement boost, right? So we saw in this case, they focus a lot on asset management, they focus a lot on customer survey. So the smaller change that trigger this broader achievement was in fact the data collection, right? So you focused a lot on that. You developed also, or you also got advantage of new technologies. You developed an app, and that allowed you to build all that base, to build all that information that you require to get to your ultimate goal, which was reducing non-running water, right? 4.7 cubic meters were reduced, which somehow shows the impact of this type of smaller initial activities into broader, more ambitious reforms. So with that, let's go and see the result from our first poll. So let's see what you guys thought about the 3 questions that we asked. So the first one was, what is the most important enabler for a successful change, right? So then glad to see that it's about the leadership and support that you require for that. Second ranks the clear communication and vision, right? So it's good to make sure that we have everybody on board. Leadership is important to have our general managers and the CEOs on board of these reform processes. Also very important to have all the staff on board of that process, right? It's not only a task that is to be pulled by one single leader, but it's a task that needs to be pushed by the entire team. Quite surprising that none of us thought that technology and systems are the key enabler of reform. So for the second question, which was more about your organization, can you scroll it down a little bit, please, Gil, so we see the full question number 2. Excuse me. Right. So the second question was about the organization culture and change. So in general, we see that the respondents said that the organizations were cautious but open. So yeah, somehow they are willing to trigger or to start a reform, but they are not so convinced about that, right? So we also see that good 19% of the responses said that they were resistant and they were more status quo oriented. So it's always very difficult to trigger to start reforms, but again, that's the importance of starting with smaller actions. And then the last question, which somehow is the reason of this webinar that we're sharing with you today. So the question is, do you believe that small rapid improvements can spark deeper transformation in your organization? 56% of respondents said that yes, definitely this is needed. So we need to start small to achieve bigger transformations. So with that, let's go, Gil, to the second poll that we want to share with the audience today. So can you put it in the? All right, we have it here. So please go ahead. We have again 3 questions. Please take the time to respond these 3 questions, and we will discuss them after our next presentation. All right, 10 seconds more to complete this poll. All right, I think that we are getting your responses. So we'll try to tabulate that and we'll comment on those after our next presentation. So with that, let me invite Andrew to share the experience from Águas de Portugal. So in this case, we're going to move to another very important element of utility performance, which is the customer management. So let's hear from Andrew what was the case that Águas de Portugal implemented to see and to boost performance via the better engagement with the customers? So over to you, Andrew.
Hi, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everybody, wherever you are in the world from here in Portugal. My name is Andrew Donnelly from ADP International. I'm here to recount the story of Utility of the Future guided capacity building project between Portugal and Pakistan. These are two diverse countries with no great historic or cultural connections, but the project delivered, I think it delivered the anticipated utility exchanges thanks to the enthusiastic professional to professional involvement which it facilitated. The presentation itself is different in nature than the previous presentations, as it's this focused on more on commercial and communication activities rather than being principally operational. So just a very quick review of ADP, Águas de Portugal Group. This is a 100% state-owned holding with over 30 years experience essentially managing wastewater supply systems here in Portugal, supplying directly, indirectly, something between 80 and 90% of the Portuguese population. So at its core is a water utility with 13 operational companies. Where I am these days at Águas de Portugal International, we essentially act as an international showcase for the parent group, establishing partnerships with key stakeholders and international multilateral institutions to help develop the water supply and wastewater sector, capitalizing on the know-how and the experience that is inherent within the group, as I said, as a water utility. And we've been involved with the World Bank for many years, and especially the Utility of the Future project since 2019, and we've implemented several projects together with various partners. If you go to the next slide. The main actors in this project were Sedapal, which is the largest and the oldest water supply company here in Portugal, supplied bulk water supply to around 1/3 of the population, as well as direct supply to the city of Lisbon itself, and also manages a very large, extensive company on the Spanish border as well. So it's a company with mature operations, maintenance and asset management systems, refined commercial areas, client communication areas, and it provides a very resilient service, which was tested to the maximum yesterday, as most of you will have seen on the news. Excellent diagnostic capacity, good financial results, performance indicators such as non-revenue orders. 155 years of experience, a very consolidated and mature company. KWSC, the Karachi Water and Sewerage Company, has a very, very different challenge, serving over 20 million people in the city of Karachi, again responsible for bulk water production, distribution, supply, treatment and disposal of wastewater. The three big challenges which are identified by KWSC are their aging water mains and sewage infrastructure, which obviously leads to inefficiency, compromised services, shortages, etc. High non-revenue order levels, both on the physical side and the commercial side, and capacity building, institutional development, which is badly needed given inadequate development and ill-equipped workforce for what is a complex responsibility in terms of water management. Insufficient technical knowledge, crisis response, and lack of efficiency within the company. So the next slide, please. So I don't need to recount the utility of the future project. However, our approach to it is that at ADP that we don't have a fit-for-all one solution magic recipe which will suit for all other utilities. Analyze and understand first, proposing recommendations as to how the utility can go forward. And again, we're one utility speaking to another, so the utility partner is always in the driving seat. They decide where they want to go and develop their roadmap towards enabling change. It's one utility talking at the same level, at the same with a partner, discussing with another how to assist, how we can assist based on our experience to create and develop their own capacity. So coordination is key, and top management involvement is key, and communication, along with sharing of problems and experiences. You can go to the next slide, please. So ADP and KWSC assignment, this was initially undertaken before the pandemic and covered 5 key areas. So non-revenue water, water safety plans, monitoring and reporting, asset management, and resilience, climate change adaptation. So identified all the key areas for integration in an action plan to help foster modernization and performance improvement. However, then along came the pandemic and all of us were focused on other issues, per se. But a post-pandemic assignment aimed at restarting this capacity building and knowledge sharing actions between the two partners. And this was further reviewed by a top-level board management visit from KWSC to Lisbon in March 2023. And specifically, this identified 2 actions for development. Processes and procedures that supported customer-centered management and operations, supported by key practical KPIs to support communication and service improvement. Just to note that previously and on other projects, we've used the utility fuels tools in their 360 degrees entirety, but it wasn't applied in this case overall because the KWSC board had already identified the urgent need for development in the commercial areas. However, the project was inspired and guided by the Utilities of the Future toolbox. So next slide, please. So the methodologies were largely based around workshops to identify pointers that could contribute to a customer service management and billing development at KWSC during the 4 weeks which a partner spent with us in Lisbon. This was all a joint effort between ADP, EPAL, KWSC, and it was to summarise and organise all the main topics where they discussed during the month and create a main output, which was a roadmap to help enhance KWSC's customer relationship management. As I said at the start, it's perhaps less diagnostic and less obvious as to what we were suggesting compared with the previous presentations, but it's more about guidance. And the content was very much inspired by EPAL's internal procedures, how they can be adopted and applied to customer service activities in Karachi throughout the life cycle of the customer contract and contact. So, and all of this was supported by development of KPIs for the customer support centre. So it came down to 3 phases. So if we can go on to the next slide, please. There was a pre-assessment undertaken of KWSC's commercial activities. This was done via quite a detailed questionnaire. Again, this was guided by the Utilities of the Future methodology relating to service performance and customer-related activities. This identified several principal preoccupations. So the main constraints affecting commercial management were inadequate customer data management system, irrational tariff, inefficient billing, collection, and challenges related to revenue collection and arrears. The vision of potential solutions obviously focused on the implementation of a robust customer relationship management system to improve data management, upgrade the billing system, and establish proactive revenue control measures. Obviously, they evolve by existing IT systems. We continually refer to the importance of the IT guy, supported by manuals and procedures for customer management. So this is not just about billing, it's customer management and service quality, all supported by suitable dedicated software and, again, KPIs. So if we move to the next slide, please. The phase 2 was the knowledge exchange workshops, which were to facilitate utility discussion and first-hand practical experience. So these were key workshops. The themes covered most of the relevant topics based on the reality of EPAL's commercial division and the daily challenges that they have in providing water supply to the City of Lisbon. It's a mixture of interactive presentations and discussions, most of which were very, very animated, shall we say, which was good to see the enthusiasm from both sides. Everybody learned a lot from them. Site visits and on-the-job sessions with the specialists and technicians being accompanied during their daily tasks and duties. EPAL obviously demonstrated their integrated IT tools, so not just the customer relationship management software itself, but communication tools, the GIS, which underpins most of the activities, as well as the SCADA and the in-house non-revenue water assessment and control system. The main topics and subtopics were as listed on the screen now. So customer service and communication, customer billing, and my favorite topic, non-revenue order and metering, of course. So if you can move to the next slide. The last phase was obviously preparation of the roadmap itself. So we never aimed to say exactly what the partner utility should do, but help them identify in a clear and systematic way what were the most significant commercial procedures and tasks that needed improvement. So critical procedures were technological maturity was lacking, especially in regard to CRM and the GIS systems, insufficient work manuals and integrated IT tools, significant need for capacity building of staff at all different levels, and communication channels as well to really connect KWSC to its customers, along with having a more customer-centric approach to inquiries and disputes rather than entering conflict with the customers. Registration of all the customer contracts, service connections, requests, timely implementation, water bill generation, online billing and payment management, then also a move to having all clients metered. So this is the meter laboratory and workshop, customer meter installation. There was also great concern about unclear responsibilities within the billing department, along with reliable documentation and records. The next slide, please. So what came out, aside from the roadmap guide, was a series of suggestions for short-term innovation pilots and medium-term initiatives for both of the bulk side and the retail customers. So bulk customers, if they didn't already have an operational meter, to make sure that they did, along with the rollout of telemetry, starting with the largest and most critical customers, and of course on-site verification of the service connections and correct registration in the GIS and CRM systems. It might seem like a small point, but if there is no healthy operational and accurate CRM and GIS systems, then this is a significant challenge. For retail customers, the retail side, the domestic distribution side, we suggested DMA-based pilots, and these were not necessarily aimed as non-revenue water control methodologies, but rather a catalyzer for change in the utility, using a small demarked area of the network and to define and evaluate actual consumption of each consumer, which each of them being metered, and aim to analyze the actual consumption and accurately estimate non-revenue water, both on the real and apparent side, based on these pilot areas. Use these pilot areas to identify and register all of the clients within the area in the GIS and the customer relationship management system, and making sure that the whole GIS and billing system, communication system is working as it should before it's rolled out across the wider part of the city. So customer liaison and communication will always be fundamental. The most interesting session that we had with KWSC for me was on the communication part, because they said it was one area that they simply didn't have. So it was a new area, a new set of tools, new skills which were needed within the company to value the rest of the company's activities and create confidence in the utility itself. Obviously supported by IT tools as well. So we can move to the last slide, please. So what were the wider contributions to KWSC? I think these were that the project, in terms of capacity building and knowledge sharing, has no doubt contributed to the company's sustainable development goals, which overall ensuring availability and sustainable management of water and sanitation for all. We hope it's inspired change through discussion of common problems and sharing of experience, exemplifying how Portuguese water utilities have used robust tools to support customer-centered management to improve the utility. And it's highlighted how efficient operations and effective communication are essential for building a positive institutional reputation with the customers and clients. So it's about facilitating utility contact, professional to professional contact and contributing to the larger development goals of KWSC. Thank you very much for your attention. If you go to the last slide, is all our contacts here at ADP International, and I hope that was of interest to everybody. Thank you very much.
Andrew, thank you so much. So in this case, what I retain from this presentation is the importance on the communications strategy, right, Andrew? And you did mention that you have a customer-centric approach, and where somehow you understood and you helped the utility understanding how important clients are and how important customers are. You also retain what you mentioned, that having this sort of better communication with the clients also enable or allowed the utility to be more confident, to better understand the needs of their clients, and that at the end allows all these innovative or all these ambitious plans to somehow get traction and be somehow easier to implement. We do have a question on the chat box about water meters, so we'll come back to you on the last session of the last part of this session to address that question. So with that, Gil, let's see the results from the second poll and see what our esteemed participants thought. So the question was, what do you think is the most common barrier to change faced by professionals working in utilities? What is the painful aspect that does not allow us to change, that does not allow those utilities to perform better? So it seems that the leading answer was resistance to change. So yes, always difficult to change the status quo. It's always difficult to get us out of our comfort zone. I see others are other answers are along the same percentage. So we have lack of internal capacity. We have political and regulatory hurdles. We have poor data or information systems. So again, the major constraint is usually the resistance to change is because it's easier for us to keep on doing what we are doing. The second question on this batch was, what's your biggest fear when launching a fast-paced improvement initiative? So why you would not be willing to do that? So the answer that got the highest percentage is resistance from key stakeholders. Again, very much along the same lines, right? So people is just used to working a certain way. So whenever we suggest or we propose to do things in a different manner, it just creates resistance. Final question is, to what extent does leadership in your organization actively champion performance improvement? So we said 40% very strongly. So yeah, of course, all leaders say that yes, they want to have a utility that performs better. It does come with additional efforts, but in general, we see that leadership is very supportive of moving with a performance improvement plan, and they are all in to get those utilities to perform better. So with that, let us move on to the next stage on our webinar. So we want some of our colleagues to ask questions to our esteemed panelists and comment in the presentations if there is any comment. So I would like to invite my colleague Tala to ask the first question. So Tala, please come in.
Hi, everyone. So my question is, first off, to Rui and Salim, thank you so much for introducing us to the WICTI tool. So my question is, if you can please elaborate on how your organization has addressed gender inclusion when implementing WICTI in Tunisia or in other countries. I think that would be really interesting for us to hear. Thank you so much.
Just the first general question, the gender and the parity issue depends very much on the countries and on the operations, and you can go from very, very, very different configurations and culture. So it means that there's no a single solution, and there's no something in WICTI specific for that. It means that then the management and the HR team of each of the subsidiaries need to find what are the issues in their context and what are the solutions that they can implement. I can give you the example of the entity where I am, which are the headquarters in Paris, with the problematic that is very simple. In fact, we have gender and parity issues in the quantity and in salaries. And we managed to quite improve in the salaries part, not that easy on the parity part, on the quantity of because there are just less candidates, and it's difficult. And just to give you a very precise, we have, it's a small thing, but it works. We have in the entity which I belong in France, every year there's an envelope of increase of salaries that is specific for women to catch up, to reduce discrepancies. And it has been implemented for years. And in the small universe where we are, we still have differences in number of people. We still have more male than female. But in terms of parity, after years of this policy, we managed to have very similar salaries. So it worked. It's very specific, developed country headquarters, but well, that's our feedback. Maybe Salim can tell you something more about the Tunisian configuration that should be rather different.
Tunisian configuration is simple. Where we are organized, we took. I'm the wiki officer, and then we selected. We designated 18 referent process. 50 of them are women, and these referents work with the relay. These relay are present, in the plant, and they collaborate with the referent process to give the information, or to have this kind of field visit. It's simple. It's a simple organization. There is no how can I say? It's not so complicated, I don't know if I was clear.
Yes, thank you very much.
Right, thank you. So now I'd like to invite my colleague Sven to ask a question. So come in, Sven.
Thanks, Camilo. So my question is actually to Nuno regarding his very, very informative case study in Dar es Salaam, where you've truly achieved some very impressive results. I was wondering, what role did data and performance metrics on non-revenue water play in driving and sustaining your change? And were there any surprising findings and lessons learned in using performance data?
Thank you for the question. So data is the base of everything. So the required data to implement a project like this, it was missing, or it lacked accuracy. So we understand this with the earlier stages when we started to assess the system. So the volume of system input was calculated based on estimations, because there were no sources flow meters. So it was calculated also in the pumping operation time, billing with a lot of estimations. We found during the survey around 10% of meters that were unreadable and inaccessible. The asset register was not adequate. So all this didn't allow us to perform and to start tackling the non-revenue water. So this required a change in our approach from all our methodology that we suggested, and we had to increase a lot our resources that will allocate to the project implementation. So we had to collect the data and build our database almost from scratch. As an example, the design of DMAs required more than 1,200 site investigations. So I'm talking about doing excavation to look where is the network and finding the network. So 10 times more than what was initially estimated. So this situation took for at least 3 revisions of the overall design. So for we need to build a reliable source of information, a single source of truth before starting to develop an action plan. And I'm talking about asset data from the network, the DMAs, the location of the connections, dimensions of the pipes, network operational data, what is happening, what are the teams doing on the field. That's why we developed digital tool just to manage leak detection and repairs. Commercial data, we run a customer survey to properly locate the connections to the network, to know where they were connected and what was the kind of population we had and customers we had in the network, namely the commercial and industrial. And all this data was open to our employer and supervision consultant, which allowed us to create a transparent relation with the stakeholders. And this relation and transparency allowed also flexibility to discuss and start implementing solutions that could bring quick wins. So I would say that reliable, clear, and transparent data that we have produced and contribute hugely for the good results that we have obtained. And I hope that Dawasa keeps using this data and is taking advantage of it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nuno. So to close this round of questions, I would like to invite another of our water specialists from the ground. So I think he's based in India. So Gordon, please come on in and ask your question.
Thank you, Camila. And Andrew, thank you so much for your presentation. It resonated with me. When I first entered the industry, I won't say how many years ago because I'll date myself, but I worked on GIS and also updating the customer suite system. So it was really interesting what it is your team did in Pakistan. And so linked to that, and as a young professional, I do still consider myself a young professional. My question is, what role do early career professionals play in driving innovation or digital transformation in your customer service or billing systems? Or to rephrase, are there specific programs or initiatives in place to attract, train, and retain young professionals in commercial management roles? Thank you.
I think they're two excellent questions, and I resonate exactly with what you're saying, not wanting to admit how long we've been in the sector. I will admit it though. I think young professionals have a fundamental role to play in both innovation and transformation. There have been many changes in, I'll call it the digital world, in the 25 years that I've been involved in the water sector. But I think these changes are going to be nothing compared to what is going to happen in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years, or the next 25 years. We've seen change, but I think we're at a generational change point now. For that, we need new professionals, greater education than ever before, especially in IT areas, so we can ensure that the sector can keep up with the world at large. We need a new generation of, can I call them transformers, who can relate and understand the traditional side of our sector's functions, where we're never going to be able to replace people, but link that to development on the digital side. So it's connecting the real world with the digital world, the digital twinning. Yeah? So guarantee essential service and data aspects, but use that data in a more effective, efficient, and customer-friendly ways through digital tools. For that, we need new professionals. Your other question was about, I think it's again a very important about attracting, training, and retaining young professionals. Yes, there have been such programs here in Portugal, but as with most of the water sector here is operated by state-owned entities, so either the ADP group or municipalities. We're obliged to work under government regulations on staff numbers, on salaries, and career progression. So I think many colleagues here share my view that insufficient human resources if not one of, if not the largest threat to the sector that we have here. This is not just in terms of the number of people, but attracting and training future generations in the new skills that we need and retaining them in the sector. We're essential service sector, but we're in competition with what I can say maybe sexier sectors who have more flexibility, who have more appeal to young professionals. But maybe in some strange ways we can use the mega events such as the blackout here in Portugal and Spain yesterday. Maybe that will remind society the importance of water and wastewater services. We had no water at home yesterday, and I think millions of others across the Iberia didn't have yesterday. So we need not just to invest in smart systems, but even smarter people to ensure that these systems work in the future. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Andrew. So we managed to pick some of the questions that were coming through the chat box. So let's try to have a quick round of answers to that. So let me, all right, Andrew, since I have you here in the screen. So a question that I found very relevant was one about water meters. So as part of the plan was also installing new water meters. And I would like to know also how that was coupled with that communication campaign and that communication efforts that you did mention on your presentation, right? So because we know that sometimes when we're trying to install water meters, we do see some sort of resistance from the population, and yet water meters are key for the work that we do. So how did you manage to couple those two? Over to you, Andrew.
Yeah, I think we have quite a large and extensive experience of water meters here in Portugal. We've had 100% metering for decades here. It is just the norm here. So we have a very mature meter capacity in most utilities here. We're well versed in managing the meters. I said most of the meters here are still mechanical meters. Obviously, they've developed over the years, but more and more it's becoming common for companies to have smart meters. There is some resistance to it, but it is something which is developing. And basically, compare this with Karachi, which has no domestic metering whatsoever. It's only the large users that have a meter, which are traditional mechanic meters, which are very, very subject to variations caused by the intermittent supply, so air and debris becoming into the mains. So it's a highly problematic issue. And what I was saying about using the DMA concept was the fact that we could move to 24/7 supply, which would eliminate a lot of the metering problems. So yes, we were proposing to install more meters, which could create more problems, but that was aligned with a move to 24/7. The part about communication and meters, again, that was one of the most highly discussed subjects in a couple of the training sessions that we had. It was exactly as you said, that customers need to know what they're paying for. And when they're going to see the water bill nominally go up, potentially go up, it could go down, but they need to know what exactly they're paying for. And certainly here in Portugal, the water charge is also linked to a wastewater charge and a solid urban waste charge as well. So the more water you consume, the more solid waste charge and the most wastewater charge. So I don't think there's any other commodity in life that we pay for that isn't measured. You go to the supermarket, everything is weighed, measured, petrol, fuel, whatever. And I don't think water should be any different. And what is the communication part was highlighting the importance to clients of water and safe water and wastewater, how it creates life and how it protects life. And that comes with a charge. So it's helping them understand and their willingness to pay, and also helping them to be rational with their use as well. You don't just assume that they open the tap and that there's water there, but it's unlimited. No, they have to be conscious about it. So yes, it was a very, I won't say contentious subject, but it was a very interesting subject because Karachi was starting from virtually zero and could learn an awful lot from a successful utility like Sedapal here in Portugal as well. Yeah.
Excellent.
Hope that answered your questions.
Perfect, excellent. So basically, you need to know what you're consuming and what you're paying for. Yeah, excellent. Also, the example, same thing with gasoline when you go to the pump. All right. Now a question to Salim about the Wikti tool. So he sparked a lot of interest on the participants of this webinar. So a couple of questions about that Wikti tool, Salim. So first, is it publicly available? And second, how it triggered these small changes that we've been discussing today in our webinar. So Salim, if you can answer within 2 minutes, it would be great. Over to you, Salim.
Excuse me, Camilo, can you repeat please the question?
Sure. Yeah. So it's about the Wikti tool. The question is whether it is publicly available. And the second part is how it can trigger these small changes that we've been discussing today. And great if you can answer within 2 minutes. Over to you, Salim.
Probably Rui can answer to this question about is it free or is it available? Rui, si tu peux répondre.
Yes, yes, of course. It's clearly public available. It's clearly not free. So if any company wants, whether just to do the assessment, the 360 assessment, usually it's really a very, very low cost. It's I'm speaking about a couple of thousands of euros. It's very cheap. So you can do the assessment, or you can buy the full service with a follow-up over maybe 3 years, and of course the cost is significant. So it's available to anybody, but it has a cost. And the small changes it triggers, Selim, you'll complement. In fact, is when you do the spider net, you define what are the issues you have, what are the things that hurt you the most, and that will have the more impact, and you will focus on these ones. So this assessment is selecting exactly it's not the low-hanging fruit, but it's the things that will have more impact and that sometimes can be very limited, small things. So the spider net assessment, 360 assessment, helps to do that. If you want to add something, Selim, about that?
Excuse me?
An example of a small thing that had a huge impact.
Yes. You know, when we have done the diagnosis, when you look to the spider, our spider, we have a result. We have two processes that we have to work on it. You know, and the two processes we are focused on it actually, and because why? Because there is a big how do you say, a big
Gap.
A big gap. So we are focused, and that's the benefit of these tools, because they tell you when you have to concentrate, when you have to focus on your action plan. I don't know if I answer it.
I think it's clear and noted. So and Rui, you mentioned it. Not necessarily the most expensive and the biggest action is the one that is going to bring higher benefits to your utility. So yeah, I think that I agree with that statement. So then let us go back to Nuno for closing this stage of the webinar. And the question is about the sustainability of the program, right? So you did mention how the program started, the importance of this initial step of gathering information, how you got to those impressive results in reducing non-revenue water. But then the question is, what has happened since the project finished? So have the utility been able to sustain those levels of non-revenue water? Have those increased, reduced? So can you tell us what happened after that? Over to you, Nuno.
I don't have at this moment I don't have information about where they are exactly in terms of the water balance and the non-revenue water levels. In fact, I was contacted last week, and is foreseen a meeting because they have questions about the water balance. So I would say that they are working on the DMA areas, and they are calculating the water balance. So they are worried with the project. So I believe that it's going to last on time. But as you know, non-revenue water is a never-ending story. So we need to keep our eyes every day on the network, and we keep to maintain repairing all the leaks that we can find and implement all the actions that we can implement to reduce non-revenue water. So there were materials that were left at the end of the project and were handed over. It was foreseen in the project, and I hope that they are dealing with the leaks that they are detecting with these materials also.
All right, thank you so much, Nuno. So with that, let us go to the final part of our webinar. So for that, I would like to invite our water supply and sanitation global lead here in the World Bank Water Global Practice, Jitbarik Tsema, who is going to give us his closing remarks and wrap up for this session. Over to you, Jitbarik.
Thank you, Camilo. Thank you, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, people from our side. I think I found this training very important and timely. Thank you really for this rich experience sharing session. The need for efficiency is more than any time becoming very critical at this point, where I think the water is in crisis. 4 billion people live in water scarce areas. So we need to make sure that our use of water is more efficient, our performance is improved substantially. So this training is really, really important for us to really understand the need for efficient improved performance of utilities. We learned that the solution is not only technical. I gather that it's not only technical, but multi-pronged. So it needs to be approached very systematically to include the software aspects as well. The experiences from these three presentations are telling us that capacity building is very essential. Capacity building both for institutional capacity building and human resource capacity building. Communications are very essential so that I think there will be success in convincing leaderships, stakeholders on change management. We usually tend to stick to what we are used to. So when there is a need for change, communication, participatory approach is very important. So that's what we learned from all the three actually presentations. The Tanzania presentation tells us that starting small systematically, build on data and then make sure that you start small, learn, and then achieve huge results. That's what's happened in Tanzania, which is really telling that systematic, data-based, and small approach will lead you to a large success, so with a possibility of scalability. So capacity building, communication, leadership and governance itself contributes hugely to really succeed in reforms. So it's not only a technical solution. The Tunisia experience about using technology and then making 360 assessment and then understanding, diagnosing the challenge before you really embark on the solution is another lesson we got from this training. So overall, it's not only technical, but it's also software and then capacity building largely to make sure that whatever is built is sustained. So the other challenge would be sustainability, but if it's approached with a good customer management, which includes customers, involves customers in all aspects, it will ensure sustainability. That's what we gathered from this training. I'm sure all of you have got a good lesson to take back. We have our Utility of the Future initiative, which really is also in line with what this training has told us in terms of making sure we have to have a good diagnostics to make sure that we know what we are doing, plan properly, the way the Karachi approach told us to really come up with a roadmap that shows you where you are going, and then how you can achieve that solution. So we are really in good shape, but it's really, really important that we accelerate our intervention or performance improvement, given the challenge the water sector is facing in this time because of the scarcity, which really is challenging. Urban population is growing dramatically and the demand is increasing. So the way we use our resources should be more efficient. For that to happen, our performance has to be well planned and implemented, and that improvement will contribute to overall crisis solution of the water sector. I hope this type of training will continue. It is not going to be the first, but I think we need to really exchange this knowledge, because peer-to-peer exchange is always important to make a difference and then understand one's challenge, because mostly the solutions are local. So we have an overall framework in approach. The solutions are local, have to be adapted to the local situation. So I am sure all of you have got a very good input, and then I really thank you all of the presenters, organizers, and also the participants for really coming up with good questions. And thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Barek. So yeah, I think that with that, we just want to thank you all for joining to today's session. I hope that these real world examples that we shared today sparked some ideas and inspiration for how rapid, focused action, small changes can transform your water utility, right? So let's keep the momentum going by turning today's insights into actually practical steps in those utilities that we are working, that we are supporting at this moment. So as Barek mentioned, remember these are a series of webinars. So this is not the last one of them. Stay tuned to see what is the next webinar that we would like to host and we would like to share with you. So once again, big thank you to our panelists today, Nuno, Andrew, Selim, Rui. So thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you also to the team of the World Bank, Federico and Ada, who made a lot of effort to put this together. All right. Thank you so much, and you have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye.